White people, how do you feel about the segregation ban? I already know how people of color feel in other minorities, but what about y'all? How do you feel about this? Like, are you happy? I know that's kind of like a setup, huh? Because if you're all like, yeah, and I'm like, oh, we found him. But no, I'm like curious, like, because I mean, it doesn't really affect y'all unless you have like a partner or something like that, or kids who are obviously people of color. Other than that, just straight up white people, no relations to any people of color. How do you feel about this? Are you just like, damn, that's crazy? I mean, are you shocked? Like, I'm laughing because me and my people, we've already been through shit. So it's like, at the end of the day, I have faith that we will be okay. I guess for the Karens and the Kevins out there, it's like good. That way you don't have to be mad at any black person or other person of color coming in your territory and questioning them. You get to just chill and deal with your own people. Let me know how you feel.
Disgusted, pissed, ashamed, embarrassed.
How I feel about it? I'm scared. I'm afraid. I know the stories of what happens to those of minority that goes out every day. I know what would happen if my daughter, who's mixed, will go out and something would happen.
I will look on with nothing but joy as the black community turns this on its head and shows the white racist MAGA community just how disposable they are, economically and socially.
Guys, I can't believe I have to talk about this in 2025. You'd think we left segregation in the history books, but here we are again. The Trump administration has removed a federal clause that banned segregation facilities in the government contracts. This basically means that the companies that work with the government no longer have to follow explicit rules against segregation, and people are angry. Not just black people, but white folks too. I mean, we know what segregation did to society. We know the pain it caused. So why are we trying to go backward?
I would rather shit my hands and clap as hard as I can. Segregation? No.
Well, if I see a whites-only water fountain, I'm going to take a big shit in it. If I see a whites-only taxi cab, I'm going to be charged with vehicular manslaughter. If I see a whites-only restaurant, I'm going to be charged with poisoning with the intent to kill. I hope this is what Trump had in mind.
You mean to tell me in 2025 we're talking about segregated bathrooms, segregated dining areas, segregated drinking fountains? You think this is just some bureaucratic paperwork shuffling?
I ain't going backwards. They are going to literally have to remove me from black-owned stores, black-owned restaurants, and black neighborhoods. So the problem is that us white people, we have been lied to so much, being told that we're superior. We ain't shit. We wouldn't be shit if our forefathers didn't lie, cheat, and steal and change history. Come on, I ain't going backwards. I see the value. I know the value of black people in my life. I know that I wouldn't be who I am without the black people that I've had in my life, a part of my journey. No. And if you're white and you don't like what I got to say, you can have the life you deserve, because I don't give a rat's ass.
You know, black people really don't give a shit if they can't be around white people, right? Like, you think that black people give a flying fuck that you're not going to let them into your racist ass place?
Okay, I know we're all kind of laughing about this idea of segregation coming back, and white people are jumping ship left and right. Like, please let me be on the side of Beyonce and Jasmine Crockett and Barack Obama. I don't want to have nothing to do with Carrie Underwood and Kid Rock, right? Leave me out of it. So yeah, that's funny to sort of joke about, but segregation is not funny. It was more than just entertainment and which restaurant you could use and which water fountain you could use and whether or not you were allowed to use the public pool. Like, it affected so many other systemic things. Education, access to property ownership, banking. Like, it was really deeply bad.
This is legalized segregation. That's what's happening. Trump's administration just ripped the anti-segregation clause right out of the federal contracts.
For decades, there has been a rule in the federal contracts that clearly stated businesses working in the government could not have segregated facilities, no separate restrooms, waiting areas, or lunch counters based on race, gender, or any other factor. This was a way to ensure that history could not repeat itself and that businesses taking government money followed basic anti-discrimination policies. But Trump and his team removed this clause. They're saying, oh, don't worry, there are still laws against discrimination. But let's be real, if a rule isn't written down clearly and explicitly, companies will find loopholes. And when they do, who do you think is going to suffer the most? Minority communities, Black people, Latinos, Indigenous people, and anyone who faced discrimination. And let's not act like racism isn't still a thing. We still see Black people getting kicked out of stores for looking suspicious. We still see businesses discriminating against customers based on race. The only difference is they used to get in trouble for it. But now Trump isn't making it easier for them to do this without consequences. That's the problem.
And don't sit there telling me, well, the Civil Rights Act still protects us. You think these billionaires and power-hungry politicians don't know exactly what they're doing? They're testing the waters. They're pushing the boundaries. They're seeing just how much injustice they can get away with before we fight back. And that's the problem. We don't fight back. Not enough of us anyway. Too busy picking red or blue like it's just a damn football game. But this ain't Republican versus Democrat. This is them versus us. The rich versus the working class. The powerful versus the people. You think the CEOs cashing multi-million-dollar bonuses care if you're a conservative or a liberal? No, they care that you're distracted, too busy arguing over pronouns or statues while they rob you blind and strip away your rights. Wake the hell up. The same government that told you Iraq had WMDs, that bailed out Wall Street while you lost your house, that sent your friends to die for oil. That government is now telling you segregation is just paperwork, that it's not a big deal. Just like how they said Jim Crow was just states' rights. Just like how they said wage slavery was just business-friendly policy. You want to know what Thomas Paine said? One of the biggest firebrands of the American Revolution. He said, the duty of a patriot is to protect his country from its government. Well, guess what? We are at that point. If you think this stops at optional segregation facilities, you're out of your damn mind. They're rolling back everything. DEI programs gone. Affirmative action scrapped. Federal anti-discrimination rules gutted. And if you think the corporations that hire off these federal contracts ain't taking full advantage, I got a bridge to sell you. Look around. 1% of Americans own more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. Your wages are stagnant. Rent skyrocketing. Healthcare is a damn scam. And now they're openly flirting with the idea of segregation again. You really think that's an accident? Or do you think the same corrupt elite who profit off of war, prisons, and sweatshops are now laying the groundwork to divide us even further? It is us versus them, not red versus blue, not left versus right. The only color that matters to these people is green, and they don't care how much blood they gotta spill to keep it flowing their way. So what are you gonna do? Sit there? Pretend it ain't happening? Are you gonna remember that this country was built by people who had enough, who rose up, who fought back? Because I don't know about you, but I ain't letting these snakes rewrite history and drag us back to the damn 1950s. Not without a fight.
If you're confused about what's going on with Trump's executive order on segregation, let me explain. Although Trump did sign an executive order to remove a prior ban on segregation, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is still in place, which means it is still illegal to segregate a protected class. However, the reason this is such a huge deal is because the federal government is in charge of enforcing the Civil Rights Act and investigating civil rights violations. By Trump signing this executive order, he is making it loud and clear that the federal government does not intend to do their part in enforcement or investigation. Effectively, what he's done is made it known to businesses that they don't need to abide by the Civil Rights Act because the government won't enforce it. Several federal agencies, like the Department of Homeland Security and the National Institute of Health, have already begun issuing notices to employees advising them not to consider the prior ban on segregation going forward. While this is only one of the countless attacks on DEI that Trump has made, the potential impacts of this order are vast and frightening, especially considering the history our country has with segregation.
Now, the big question is why? Why would Trump in 2025 remove something so important? Well, the Trump administration says this is about streamlining federal contracts. They claim this clause was redundant because other anti-discrimination laws already existed. But if that were true, why remove it? If it wasn't a big deal, why change it? This is part of a bigger pattern we've seen from Trump, rolling back diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, attacking affirmative action, pushing this idea of merit based on systems. But let's not be fooled. This is about giving companies the green light to ignore civil rights protections. And here's something people don't talk about enough. This isn't just about race, it's about power. When you remove protections from one group, it makes it easier to take away rights from others. Trump is creating a system where only certain people get to feel safe and included, while everyone else has to fight just to be treated fairly. Let's go back for a second. People forget just how devastating segregation was. It wasn't just about sitting in different areas on a bus. It was about getting less funding for schools, fewer job opportunities, worse healthcare. It was about forcing Black people to live in areas with no resources while white communities thrive. And when Black people tried to build their own wealth, guess what happened? Tulsa massacre, Rosewood massacre, countless Black communities burned down. Segregation wasn't just about physical spaces, it was about power and control. And this is why Trump's decision is so dangerous. Because history tells us that if we give racists an inch, they will take a mile. I need you all to understand something. Segregation doesn't just happen in one big moment. It happens in stages. First, they remove the language in contracts. Then, some businesses start quietly separating people. Then, when people protest, they say, oh, it's just a private business policy. Then, politicians start making laws that protect segregation instead of banning it. And then, we are back in the 1950s. We already see schools becoming more segregated, disparities in healthcare and education. Do you really think we can afford to lose more protections? Absolutely not. All right, now let's talk about solutions. Because sitting around being angry isn't enough. We need action. 1, spread the word. A lot of people don't even know this happened. Talk about it. Share the video. Post on social media. Number 2, boycott any business that supports segregation. If you hear about a company that's using the loophole to discriminate. Number 3, contact your representatives. Demand that segregation laws be strengthened, not weakened. Number 4, support civil rights organizations. Number 5, vote smart. If a politician supports policies like this, don't give them your vote. Period. We cannot afford to sit back and watch history repeat itself. We have too much at stake. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but this is scary. When Trump does things like this, it's not just a policy change, it's a message. A message that civil rights are up for debate. A message that segregation might not be that bad. And we cannot let this slide. So I'm asking you all, don't just sit and watch, get involved, stay informed. And most importantly, remember this. History only repeats itself when people stay silent. Let's make sure our voice are heard. Well, also leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts about this. And also remember to subscribe, like, and share as well. And until next time, bye-bye.